Okay, so I'm the last person of the day, but that's all right because I brought the thunder. I'm here with the thunder, and I appreciate Nikki not stealing my thunder.
Cheryl, we need to use your mic too, so we can all hear it.
Okay, can you hear me? Can you hear? Okay. So, yes, I'm Cheryl Harris, and I work with the Department of Human Services, Division of Aging Services. And DAS, as we call it, Division of Aging Services, we are the designated state unit on aging in Georgia. And what that means is there's a federal law, the Older Americans Act, that requires that every state have an entity that is the designated state unit on aging, so that's us. And all of the funds from Older Americans Act programs and services come into the state through the Division of Aging Services, and then we send those funds out to the 12 area agencies on aging. And that's an acronym for that is the AAAs. That's what we call them. Hopefully many of you have heard about the AAAs before today. If not, that's basically the entity in each region around the state that delivers the services for aging. The 12 AAAs also serve as aging and disability resource connections. So basically they offer services, information, assistance for every person, individuals of all ages and disability types, and of course those who are older adults. In the Division of Aging Services, I am the manager for the Access to Services section. In that section, we have the ADRC, as I said, Aging and Disability Resource Connection. Within that, we have the Money Follows the Person and the Nursing Home Transitions Program, where we help move individuals out of nursing homes back to the community. We also provide the options counseling, and part of that is meeting with individuals in nursing homes to talk about going back out to the community. And we do some nursing home diversion where we try to catch those folks before they go into the nursing home and talk about options for staying into the community. One of the really exciting things that we do as the ADRC is our partnership with developmental disabilities. And so this is where I'm going to give you a little bit of a history. And for those of you who heard this yesterday, I wish I could jazz it up and make it a little different, but I'm having a hard time doing that right now. So if you go back historically, way back many years ago, some of y'all may remember the Department of Human Resources as opposed to Human Services, and an organization called the Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities and Addictive Disorders, MHDDAD. And this organization was within DHR. Basically, as I said yesterday, that DAS was there, MHDDAD was there, and we were siblings. We were brothers and sisters, or sisters and sisters, however you want to look at it. But of course, some changes were made, and now we're cousins. We're not siblings, we're just cousins. So, because we have a whole department for behavioral health and developmental disabilities. Regardless of all that, we have a really good memorandum of understanding between DHS and DBHDD. And it's specifically within those organizations between the Division of Aging Services and the Division of Developmental Disabilities. And through that MOU, it was specifically started through some legislative funding back in 2007, and we keep getting that same funding every year. And some of that money is used specifically to help subsidize 4 positions within DD. 2 of those individuals are here, Sharon and Maria. And it depends on which side of the fence you're on and what they're called. On the DD side, I understand you're resource specialist, ADRC resource specialist, and aging specialist. We refer to them as DD specialists on the aging side because that's who we call if we run into situations that are related to developmental disabilities. So that's a very strong partnership, and the whole intent behind that had to do with the situation where When you look at the numbers of individuals around the state with a diagnosis of either DD or ID and their caregivers, there's a huge number of aging caregivers in the picture. And we all know what can happen if interventions don't take place with aging caregivers when either they end up in a nursing home or they pass on. You know, historically, that person with DD ends up in a nursing home. I mean, that's less likely to happen these days with Olmstead and the justice settlement. Regardless, there is that concern that we've heard many parents say over the years that, you know, their hope is, or their prayer is that, you know, my child with DD will die before I do, so that at least when I die, I don't die worrying about what's going to happen to them. And that's a pretty tragic state of affairs. And so with the ADRC, that has been addressed to some degree. Now, it hasn't been, like, the problem hasn't been fixed and it hasn't gone away, but we have done some things to address it. And part of that is to bring in some training for parents around setting up special trust for adult children with disabilities, and also to educate folks on the disability side about some of the services that are available through the Division of Aging and the AAAs, things like caregiver support, also some of the in-home services if those are needed. And so that's where a lot of that partnership can take place. That's where some of the cross-training and cross-referrals have taken place. Some of the services specifically that are available through the AAAs are home-delivered meals, congregate meals through senior centers, personal support services, and homemaker services. Now, I want to be really clear. There's not enough money that just goes around and serves everybody in need. We have an assessment process and a waiting list, and we serve those most in need. There's an assessment. The individual receives a score based on what they're able to do and not do, and also based on unmet need. And that determines on where they go on that waiting list. And you can stay in the same place on the waiting list for 10 years if your condition doesn't change. So that can be a little bit dismal when you look at it that way. But one of the things that we've also started doing in the last several years to really kind of change our business model, and that's to start talking with those individuals who call, kind of brainstorming some other solutions rather than just the waiting list. Things like, well, okay, you're looking for home-delivered meals. You know, you've developed some issues with arthritis. It's just very difficult for you to prepare meals. So let's talk about that a little bit further, and let's talk about some of the options you might have. One, what does it cost if you were to actually pay out of pocket for these meals? You know, we've got a provider, and we've got a couple of providers in the county where you are. The average meal's $4 a day. So we're talking, what is that, $20 a week, $80 every 4 weeks. Does that sound like something you could do on your budget? Well, of course, most people are going to say, there is no way I can afford that. Well, okay, let's start looking at your income. And then, you know, talk about things like the SNAP benefit with the medical expense deduction that's available to senior citizens. That can help free up income. Talking about things like the low-income subsidy that can also provide a little bit of income. And encouraging older adults to talk to their adult children about would they be willing to help pay for these services. A lot of adult children out there, if they know what it costs and if they know how to get it, they're going to pay for that. Because putting somebody on a waiting list, it simply doesn't help them. You know, you go on a waiting list and you wait. And what we learned through focus groups and customer satisfaction surveys was that putting folks on waiting lists, we were giving them a sense of false hope. And so now, if we can't serve them within a year, we're not going to put them on a waiting list. We just don't think, if you've got to wait for a service for over 12 months, how are you going to manage during that 12 months if you really need it? Another thing that's being done is the use of assistive technology. And this is where we've had a really good partnership with Tools for Life. We've been able to get assistive technology toolkits into each of the 12 area agencies on aging. And our ADRC counselors have gotten their hands on these pieces of technology so that they can learn more about what are they, how would you use them, what does it cost, where would you actually get these pieces of technology. And then if you're talking to somebody who, you know, they're calling to get a home delivered meal thinking they're going to go on the waiting list, what if the AAA uses some of that money? They can repurpose the money that it would cost, say, to put one person to provide them home delivered meals for a year. And they can provide assistive technology for 5, 6, 7 people for that same cost. And it's things like can openers that are easier to use, pieces of technology to open packages, maybe purchasing a small microwave if that's what's keeping that person from actually preparing the meals. Or things like if they're calling because they need homemaker services, are there pieces of technology that will make cleaning their home easier, and you help them to get it either by figuring out a way to pay for it with public money, or kind of brainstorming with that individual about how to pay for it so that you can get it in their hands. And this is much better, just infinitely better than putting somebody on a waiting list. So that's a lot of what we're doing these days. We learned in having a lot of conversations with our counselors, it's a morale issue if day after day you're screening, assessing, talking to people, and you're not actually delivering a service, you're putting them on a waiting list. So what is it exactly that you do? I put people on waiting lists. As opposed to, I brainstormed with somebody today and we figured out a way to spend $300 and we're going to fix that problem they had at home with meal preparation. Or we've discovered there's this app that you can get for free and it's going to notify their adult child if they don't, the way the app works is it sends the individual a text, and if that person doesn't respond, then it notifies somebody else in kind of your circle of support to say, okay, Maria was supposed to respond to me this morning because she's a falls risk, and she didn't. So now we're going to make an automated call to her neighbor to come check on her. So there's all those sort of things that we are looking at to do to try to meet the needs of keeping people in their homes and communities without thinking we're solving all the world's problems through waiting lists. Some of the things that the AAAs are able to do that can be very beneficial to caregivers of people with developmental or intellectual disabilities are, there's the powerful tools for caregivers groups. I think Maria has actually, have you taught that? You've gone through the class before, right? Didn't you? I was thinking way back when you did. And that's kind of a multi-week support group for caregivers, basically to learn how to take care of themselves and to set boundaries. And then there's also the chronic disease self-management programs where they provide actually support groups for individuals with chronic diseases like diabetes or high blood pressure or other things, just to learn more about self-care. And so those are some of the things that are available in the AAAs most of the time, if not all of the time, at no cost, that can be available to caregivers and individuals with DD who are aging. One of the things you have to remember, some of these programs are paid for with Older Americans Act money, and if that's the case, you have to be 60 or older to qualify. So sometimes they have to move money around or try to get creative with fund sources if the person who is looking to participate in one of these groups is under the age of 60. That's not all of the services, that's just some of them. Any questions? You all have this handout with the website and the telephone number on it, and if you need to reach your ADRC Resource Aging DD specialist, that's in the area where you are. You can find them through that website. You can go to the website, go to the Contact Us page, and then kind of look around through that and figure out who it is that you need to reach. And they are kind of your door into the aging network. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Cheryl. I really appreciate you all being here today to go over this. Did y'all learn something new about the aging? It's great. Has this been helpful for you guys? Have you gotten a lot of information? Good. We were going to end this with the panel, but y'all have been asking questions throughout the whole thing, and I know it's hot in here, so I really appreciate you all letting us be filmed in our natural setting, you know. So totally appreciate y'all hanging in there with this hot, it being hot in here. But before we wrap up and everything, do you all have any questions that you would like to have for Tools for Life, for Paula, for Cheryl, for any of us here that you are wanting to know anything else about? Okay, that's fine. I'm so glad. So I'm so glad that y'all thought this was helpful. So just next steps, we hope that you all go back and you start referring folks. Has this been helpful for about folks that you want to refer and now know a little bit more? So please go back and start referring folks. If you can't get into that link, let me know. I'll even put up, here I am right here. So my contact information is right up there. It looks just like me, doesn't it? Yesterday I couldn't find myself up there. So please contact us if you have any questions about how to do the referral. If you're not sure who to refer, please reach out to me. Please reach out to Nikki. We'll be able to walk you through those steps. Again, if you can't get into that referral link, please contact us. We'll walk you through it as well to make sure that you all are in there. So I do appreciate you guys being here and hanging in today. But right before we go, I want to do a save the date with you guys. Friday, December 7th at the Georgia Tech, the Student Center. We have an assistive technology symposium, seminar, all-day thing there that's going to focus on all kinds of assistive technology, and there are CEUs available, etc. And I believe it's only like $10 to go. So if you are looking and wanting to know more about assistive technology and you want to take advantage of this great training, please do. So that is Friday, December 8th, and I think all you guys got a postcard on it. Before you go too, if you would just leave these out, if you sign them for us, liability for the filming today, we really appreciate it. I want to give a huge shout out to Disability Connection. Thank you guys so much for letting us have our training here these past 2 days in your beautiful facility. I want to give a huge shout out to Paula and Cheryl that came for the past 2 days, and Christy too. I just would give you a huge shout out as well for coming these past 2 days and talking to us about your program. I also want to give a huge shout out to Tammy who did that, and as well as Nikki. I mean, this was really Nikki's great brainchild idea, and I am so glad that she was in that meeting with Cheryl to get this project going, and it just makes me smile inside out to know that we're going to be working with at least 325 folks around the state of Georgia, that we're going to make some real changes in their life and their family lives. And I want to give you all a huge shout out too, because of what you're doing. They're going to be referred to us. So thank you guys a lot, and thank you for coming and for being here. If there's not any other questions, then you all have a safe travel back home.